do have our wireless telecommunications bills. If you remember, these came from the Cell Phone Interim Study Committee, and the first one is SB 2531. This is the Single Point of Contact Wireless Services Bill. And if you recall, what this one does is it assigns certain duties and responsibilities to the CBO regarding wireless services. So this bill, it's been assigned to the Business, Labor, and Technology Committee and has been scheduled for February 11th at 2 p.m. This was originally scheduled for last week. However, they rescheduled it, and that is due to an amendment that we expect to come. So with that amendment, it's because of the fiscal note that's been attached to it in our tight budget year. So we are expecting that amendment to actually be a strike blow and to take out the language that implicates the CBO. So we're continuing to stay neutral on this bill, but we'll let you know of any updates. And otherwise, just stay, you can tune into the February 11th meeting. HB 25-1056, this is the Local Government Permitting Wireless Telecommunications Facilities Bill. This bill has been assigned to the Transportation, Housing, and Local Government Committee and is scheduled for February 11th at 1:30. So the CBO does not have a position on this bill as they're not implicated, and we will continue to monitor and track this bill and let you know of any updates or changes to position in this bill. Again, you can listen to the audio on that as well. So the other bill is HB 25-1080. This is the Wireless Telephone Infrastructure Deployment Incentives Bill. This has been assigned to the Business Affairs and Labor Committee and is scheduled for February 5th upon adjournment. So if you remember, what this bill does is it creates a new grant program within the CBO for wireless services, and it funds that through the high cost support mechanism. The CBO does have concerns about using that high cost support mechanism funding for that wireless services, as we want it to go towards broadband. So at this time, we are in opposition to this bill and are signed up to testify against it on February 5th. However, this bill also has a fiscal note attached to it, so we have heard that they are likely going to amend it as well. I haven't seen that amendment yet, but I will keep you posted on that and let you know when it comes through. Otherwise, just tune into that meeting that's this week. And then another bill for awareness is HB 25-1101. So this is the, it's titled State Disbursement Process. It's been assigned to the House Finance Committee and is scheduled for February 10th at 1:30. So this bill doesn't specifically call out broadband. However, what it does is it requires state agencies to give 35% advance payment to nonprofits for funding. So the CBO does have concerns about that. The concerns coming from being out of compliance with federal funding requirements. We don't have an official position on that yet. However, we'll keep you posted on it as well, and you can tune into that hearing. Another thing is the Joint Technology Committee met last week. OIT did give a update. However, there wasn't a lot of broadband discussion. So we are expecting the CBO to give the JTC an update soon. We'll let you know when we get scheduled for that. And for other updates, I would just recommend tuning into our weekly broadband legislative stakeholder call. Those are Thursdays at 1 p.m. And happy to take any questions, or you can always just shoot me an email. So let me know if you have any questions. Yeah, Matt.
So I just want to at least put that on your radar for that. CCI just went and reviewed bills on Thursday and Friday of last week, and CCI was in the opposed position for 1056, and then in the support position for the other one. I cannot even find it here. The 1080. We did not talk about a fiscal note on 1080. So Paige, if you could send me any of a fact sheet for that, or why you're in the opposed position, I'd greatly would appreciate that, just to, just for CCI information to discuss with them further.
Yeah, there's a fiscal note if you go to the bill.
Okay.
I think it needs to be updated though, because they did amend the bill since its original introduction in the committee, but there's still FTE associated with the bill to do that grant program. And that's, yeah, it's a tough year for fiscal notes.
It is. We all know that.
So,
Okay.
yeah,
I appreciate
thanks for the
it.
question.
Just any further information page, I'll send you on both those bills through via CCI stuff.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the update. All right, if there's no more questions, I think Brandy, you're taking over.
Yes, thanks Paige for that update. There's a lot of activity in the state legislature, so we'll continue to monitor the situation. So I'm gonna hop right into B if there's no more questions on legislation. We do, just so you guys know, we do host our legislative calls, stakeholder calls. So if you want to hop on any of those are available as well. But you can always ask us any questions, of course. So on BEAD, last week was quite a bit of a whirlwind for our office. And to kind of track. But I did want to talk about the situation at the federal level and just let you know where we are. So with our federal grant status, we sent out a communication to our stakeholders last week, letting them know that we're still moving forward. And we're still moving forward with all of our programs. That includes BEAD and the grants distributed by the Treasury. I just want to let you know that we take our direction specifically from the agency that's implementing the grant programs. And so I know President Trump, issued executive orders, and there was a memo from OMB, which was rescinded. And in terms of communicating, hitting pause on all federal spending. Obviously that has been rescinded. That EO still stands in place, but without specific direction from the agencies on how those EOs are implemented, we're still moving forward. We don't have much information beyond what the general public does. I know we've been getting a lot of questions about the status of grants and existing grants, even beyond BEAD, because we have contractual agreements with a lot of stakeholders in our state on federal programs. And we also as a state have a contractual agreement with the feds on the grants that we're responsible for as well. So, but we haven't received any specific information beyond what probably many of you know. Sorry, I'm recovering from some cold, but so we don't have any specifics on how this is going to go. But we are encouraging all of our grantees to keep moving forward. Don't hit pause on any of your projects. Because you're also subgrantees are also contractually obligated to keep moving forward, just like the state of Colorado. So until there's any updates, otherwise, it's full steam ahead. And we're also treating the BEAD program that way. We've been in contact with the NTIA quite a bit over the last 2 weeks, and their message to us is to keep going. They're also waiting for direction from leadership once the Trump administration the dust settles, and people agencies are staffed leadership wise. So we're still waiting kind of for direction, if there's any direction to be had at this point. So, but we wanted to let you know that we're pretty comfortable and we're pretty confident that we'll continue to execute on broadband, our broadband priorities. And mainly, broadband connectivity is it's a bipartisan issue. It has support on both sides. But we're moving ahead. And if there's any changes to any of our grant programs, of course, our stakeholders will be the first to know. And we're hoping that we can stay the course, because this program is very, very important to all sides of the aisle, and to Colorado specifically. So we did with that. I'll stop there and see if anybody has any questions or thoughts about the status of our grants, and if you're hearing anything. If you are, please let the people that you're talking to that we're okay at the CBO and we're still moving forward. So I'll see if anybody has any questions. Yes, Eric.
I had one from someone who's one of the contractors down there that does the physical part. They're looking at, the prospect of doing bead, but they were more concerned about some of the other grants, including the CPF, that they are already being contracted to do some of the construction and excavation for in the coming year. I told them that since that's already been allocated to the state long ago from the American Rescue Plan and already under contract, I didn't think that there was any risk at all of those programs from CPF and those grant funded installations that they wouldn't be subject to even that executive order if it affected BEAD. Is that correct? Is there any thing you would add to that, or did I advise them correctly?
Yeah, I think you advised them correctly. I think where I would be careful telling people that, it doesn't apply. I don't think we know what applies at this point. But I think what's important to tell people is if you have a contract with the state of Colorado to do a grant, the state of Colorado expects you to fulfill your obligations in those contracts. So don't pause on any speculation at the federal level, because we still need for you to continue to move forward. Because with the ARPA dollars, and we have a looming deadline on that money. So if anybody is pausing anything, I think the biggest risk to the projects are that you run the clock out, and then you're going to be on the hook for the rest of the project, because they're going to take that money back. So, I think it's really, really important, if you're hearing from people, to tell them to keep moving on their projects. We're actively drawing down on reimbursements from the state. So, we still have access to the system, although sometimes it feels a little confusing, but we figure it out. But if they have a contractual obligation, the state's going to expect. With that also being said, I would encourage people, if they are incurring expenses, they need to submit those to us as soon as possible. I think waiting on getting submissions from our office is problematic for people, mainly, obviously cash flow, but let's just keep showing everybody that there's progress being spent on broadband and making sure that we meet those deadlines in 2 years, because it's really important. Anybody else before I move on? Okay. So with BEAD round 2 updates, I have a couple. I know we committed to being able to have give our stakeholders time before we opened up the grant application last Monday. And we did. We gave folks about a week with the grant guidelines. Well, 2 weeks with the grant guidelines. We weren't able to give people a lot of time with the data, the map. And I just want to acknowledge that, because I said I would do my best. Our team would do our best to do that. And we were not able to deliver on providing that map a day or two early ahead of opening the application. There's a couple of reasons why. Our data and working with the grant potential subgrantees, applicants, I should say, on sharpening their pencils with data, and then categorizing BSLs being taken care of under the BEAD program, being available for bidding and negotiation. That exercise took all of the week before, and we really didn't have everything dialed in until that Monday. So it was a lot of data that we were revising and making changes to, and we just didn't have enough time to give everybody, weeks with the data. With that being said, we could have, but then we would have pushed the application out several weeks. And I know a lot of stakeholders were really anxious to get the second round open, so they can start applying for those BSLs. So apologies on that. We just couldn't make it happen. It was a choice between wait several weeks to bump the application out, or keep moving along and having, and giving people the opportunity to bid on what's remaining. Carrie?
I was going to just kind of make a broad statement, so you can finish if on this topic before I make the statement or kind of question, comment. Sorry, I didn't mean to raise my hand prematurely.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, well, you can, do you want to wait then, Carrie?
Yeah, I can wait. I can wait a second until you kind of finish on BEAD.
Okay.
Um,
Um, so, so we were able to publish everything, including our addendums, our maps. Good news on removing some of the project area approach. I think that makes it a lot easier for people. We did take the map out of the actual application because we're not using project areas as the focus. I mean, we do still use them, but they're not as important as they were in the first round. So hopefully everybody has access to the data. And if there's any questions on data, the grant program itself, we are hosting our office hours every week for people to ask us questions. And we'll do our best to answer those during those office hour times. And if we can't answer those questions, we'll put them in the Q&A that'll be published weekly, like we've been doing for all of our programs. And so we're really excited. I think we got a lot of positive feedback on opening everything up soon, or opening things up last week. And the application closes on February 28th. I just want to give a snapshot on kind of what our allocations are looking like for round one. With round one, we have we are actually for fiber in particular, BSL wise, we're 86% fiber and 14% non-fiber in our accounting for round one. And so we were able to cover approximately 59%, or actually 59% of our money we were able to allocate in round one. And so we are allocating the other 41%, or sorry, 41% for round two. With the ability to not require 100% coverage of project areas, we were able to move several projects into the review category. And this is based on cost thresholds for round one. So we're still working with those applicants. So it's kind of like we had two phases of round one. The round one before we learned that we could actually round one 1.0 app review of applicants, and then obviously post NTIA programmatic waivers, which allowed us to roll more projects into round one for review. For those folks that are part of that second wave, we're still working on curing and requests for inquiry to clarify a lot of things. I'll tell you that it's not, Jeff, it's kind of, I'll have some of those numbers. I can't really, it's all an estimate until we wrap up that review of round two, or sorry, the second round of the round one application. So we're not really telling people how much is available. It's just, it's roughly half of our money, a little less than half. So we'll see. But we're still waiting on a couple of different ISPs to finish completing the reviews that we have. Yeah, it's 826.5, but actually the actual deployment money on that, it's around 800 million. So I know I'm not being really clear, but it's still a moving target until we wrap up some of the reviews in round one. We didn't want to hit pause on the review of round one, or sorry, hit pause on the application opening, the round two application opening up, waiting for everybody to get us every piece of paper that's required in the SPEED program. So we gave some folks a little bit of time to get that information, assuming that we thought that they were viable applicants. I will tell you, the review of this program has been massive. It's a big undertaking. It's unlike anything that our office has done. Even in our broadband deployment fund, it wasn't this complicated. So there's a lot of negotiating. There's a lot of going back to our applicants to try to make things work, revising numbers, pulling high cost BSLs out, asking people to sharpen their pencils, getting in between, getting below some of the affordability thresholds that we've set for fiber and for fixed and for alternative technology. And really what, if I'm being honest, a lot of this is because we were under allocated by a lot. And so this is requiring not only just looking at what BSLs we have available, but also how we can eke out savings and stretch our dollars as far as possible. So that's where we are with BEAD. This is going to be our last round. So there is no third round. There's no fourth round. We don't have the luxury of having remaining dollars. So this is our last round. All of our funds will be exhausted after this round. So if you know of anybody who's waiting on the sidelines, maybe they're not, participating in round 2 because they want to see what's left. I don't think that's a very good approach because there's not going to be another round. And we're going to try to get as much coverage as possible out of the remaining, 41% of our money left over. So, and those are estimates because we're still finalizing those round 1 awards. So I'll stop there because I know there's a couple of questions. Carrie, do you want to go first, and then Ralph?
Sure. Just a couple of, I guess, comments and then a question. I think, one, and you kind of acknowledged it at the beginning. I will say my members were pretty frustrated that the data didn't come out before the application portal opened. I think that was really important to us because we need the time to review that data before getting the applications in there. So I guess one of my questions, knowing that you all weren't able to do that, and I understand it was, a heavy lift, but this application timeline was also shortened to 30 days from the 45 days. Have you all considered, given that, I know we have time, and I think taking the time is important. Is there any consideration in extending the application period to 45 days from the 30 days since you all didn't release the data and give kind of applicants that time to review beforehand? So that's question 1. And then I have one other comment.
We were able to put the addendum out, Carrie, 2 weeks ahead of the application. I know it's not the date. So I just want to clarify that we did put some information out before the application. It just wasn't the map. And so, and again, I apologize. It was either wait a couple of weeks to open up round 2 and give everybody with the map, or move ahead and give people, open up the application. Because where some of your members were, questioning that, they wanted to have the map, I had other people like putting a lot of pressure on us to open the application. So it was a hard balance. And, I think the reason why we did 30 days is because most of the applicants that are in the program participating, which is quite a few, they've submitted all of their managerial and financial capabilities and all of the eligibility criteria. So it's still a full application, but a lot of that information is going to carry forward. And we're not asking people to, we have, because of the way the tool's built, we have to have you copy and paste it again. But a lot of 75 to 80% of the review that we have completed is pretty much behind most of these ISPs. So what we're really asking is, of the remaining locations, submit a network design in your budget. And so we didn't think we needed another full 45 days to do the same thing we just did. Because we already vetted, we've done a lot of vetting, of course, and I'm sure you probably know about it because it's pretty intense. Most of the applicants have already submitted their financial and managerial capabilities. And the longer we delay and move this program out, I'm just really worried that there's going to be other unintended consequences potentially in this political environment. So I just, in keeping in line with kind of giving you guys time, but not saying, okay, it's 2 weeks like the other states have done, like Louisiana and a few others. 30 days we thought was good just because most people have all of their paperwork already in.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. I think that I would argue that while a lot had submitted in round 1 and some of that information, if round 2 was really to, be an open playing field for everyone, not everyone that applied if there are new applicants that wanted to apply in round 2, they wouldn't have submitted that information. So it puts them at a little bit of a disadvantage. But nonetheless, understand, I think, just again, this is a lot of money that's sitting out there, and taking the time, while I understand wanting to move quickly is important, I think really giving applicants the time to understand, while yes, the addendum came out, that data is a really critical piece, and giving folks time to review that is important. But my second kind of comment and question and feedback that I got from my members that I just wanted to share with you and this group is some of the letters that came back if an application was denied from round one were very, very vague and provided absolutely no justification, reasoning, et cetera. And so I think that was concerning to some of my members because they can't even really take a look at applying at round two because there was no, there was nothing provided as far as reasoning except a very, very short form letter, we're not moving forward with your application. There was no reasoning, justification, et cetera. And that was concerning because some of the members are now like, okay, we're not even going to go for round two because, there was nothing provided for round one. So I just wanted to throw that out there and kind of share that concern as well from a denial perspective.
Yeah, I hear you, and I appreciate that comment, and obviously, it's very disappointing to receive a denial in a form letter like that. And it's something that the state does quite a bit when we don't move forward with people's applications. I believe, and I'd have to go back and look at those denials. I do believe that we gave people an opportunity to reach out to us to ask us what happened, get feedback on their applications, in which we've done in the past. And so we've only had really maybe 2 people do that, reach out to us and ask us to, talk to us about why they were denied funding in round one. So, maybe what you can tell those folks that are reaching out to you, Carrie, that that is available to them, if they want to reach out and ask for feedback. Because we've set that up, and I think that's actually in the addendum. I don't know, Judd, you might have it more memorized than me, but I'm pretty sure we listed that as an option for people to reach out to us and ask us for feedback. And there's been a few that have done that.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. I think that some of my members have done that in the past and were disappointed with what feedback they did receive. I mean, the emails that I've seen just say, if you have questions, let us know. Again, that's pretty vague, and I'm not sure that there's like a trust that from the members that they're actually going to get a detailed response. But we can continue that conversation, and I'll encourage my folks to reach out. But did just want to share that was pretty concerning from my members' perspective.
Okay. Well, yeah, and I appreciate the concerns, of course, Carrie, and we do our best. And, I would just encourage your members, if they want, they can absolutely reach out to us and get feedback. We're more than happy to jump on a call. We've always been that way. And we want people to have the feedback if they are going to apply for round two. I know that's very important for that. So I appreciate that. Yeah.
One thing I'll add is just generally, probably the largest reason for not moving forward was funds. I mean, we just don't have enough funds. So some of the applications that were quite high per location were deferred to round two. In our addendum for round two, we give some suggestions to applicants about how to lower the cost or the total BEAD outlay for their application. So you might take a look at some of the things in addendum 2 that give you ideas about how to reduce costs, including one of the flexibilities that we've added or have in there in round 1 and round 2 is removing high cost BSLs. So I guess I would encourage your members to look at their applications, see if they can reduce costs, and then do apply, because that was really without saying it in those letters, I guess, that was the main reason.
Okay, thanks, Judd.
Yeah.
Thanks for that, Judd. And Carrie, just so you know, on the data piece as well, and I forgot to mention this, is assuming all the timelines are the same, the state of Colorado has essentially 3 months to run round 2, do all of our evaluation, curing of the next round and submitting our final proposal to the NTIA. So when we look at timelines, that is another reason why we had to move quicker than the round one, is because we're going to be running out of time with delays. And in this environment, I don't want to give anybody a reason to kind of pull the rug out from underneath Colorado. And it took us literally 3 months, nearly 4 months to review all of the applications, 91 in detail. And so I know, having more time with data was important, but we also had to weigh it with just running out of time on this schedule anyway, because we have to submit our final proposal in June. All right. Ralph, go ahead.
Thanks. I just had a few clarifications on some of the things you said. When you said that you received 86% fiber and 14% non-fiber in round one, was that total applications, or was that the ones that got provisional?
The ones that got provisionally awarded.
Okay. And do you have an estimate on the number of project areas and number of locations that are included in round two? I mean, and again, with all of the various and sundry flags in the data, there are some that are reported as having service, and others that are non-serviceable and things like that. What's the net of all of that in terms of what is available in round two? Do you have an estimate of that?
Yeah. I'm not gonna, so the rest, so if we're looking at project areas, so in round one, actually round two, let me look at my data real quick. BSLs one. I'm just gonna, actually, I'll do it off of BSLs because I think it's the easiest. We have roughly 80,000 BSLs remaining in round two. And this doesn't include the revisions to the map that we just put out. So when I say revisions, it means this is just the 160 number that we had, our universe of BEAD eligibility.
So that doesn't include the FCC's updated.
No, just universe of BEAD eligible locations from the original version 3 map. So we have 49% of those, assuming that the map that you're looking at today is we have 49% of those BSLs still remaining. Obviously, many of those BSLs aren't real, and many of those are considered served. And I don't have an updated analysis for that, but we can work on it for next time.
Okay. All right. And then you mentioned that there was 800 million of the 26.5 million that was available for deployment. Can you clarify that a little bit?
So part of our 826.5 million includes our administrative dollars as well as our 20% for administrative overhead.
Okay.
So it's 826.5 total, but roughly 800 million is for deployment.
Got it.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yeah. Go ahead, Eric.
You may have covered this, and I know it's been asked before, but is there a number that's kind of the high cost threshold that puts these addresses into the high cost flag when I'm looking around at the map now? That I know that was kind of something that was leaving it up to the ISPs before, but I don't know if we've been far enough into this now that we kind of know what that number is per address.
Yeah, so on the map, we have those high cost locations flagged. And those high cost locations can be anywhere from, 10, 12, 50,000 per passing, right, on the map. And so we were proactive in trying to identify those because there might be providers out there that, like, let's say satellite, that might pick those up for a lot less than we could in fiber or fixed wireless too. And so that was that was the purpose. And we still have to set our high cost threshold, Eric.
Okay.
And so we can't give you that definitive answer because we have to wait for round 2 to be done to really set that that high cost per location threshold for the NTI as well as us. We're using that high cost threshold to help us with our budget, knowing that we can't afford fiber that's over 12, 13, 14, 10 grand per passing based on our allocation. Is it exactly 10 grand? No. Is it exactly 12 grand? No. Because it really depends on where they're located. It depends on how the network design is set up, because some high cost BSLs can be served for a lot less as being part of a network where those thresholds are a lot lower. So I wish I could say here's the magic number, but we really won't know until we're finished with our complete analysis of all of round 1 and round 2. We
Okay.
had a lot of
And-
ISPs help us
And
with
when
that.
those,
We
the
had a
fact
lot
that
of
they have,
ISPs help us with that, with identification of high cost BSL. So that was a really great partnership.
sure. And, you know, if they're flagged as BSL, will that make them less likely to be awarded in the second round a non-LEO option, or will that just be something that you just say, hey, we know that these are high? When we establish that, then you could be addressed via LEO if there's no other option presented for those particular serviceable addresses. It's just the fact that it has a flag. Some of them look like they might be somewhat diminishing their importance level. Like if they have a reliable service, for instance, reported, that might mean, oh well, these ones are a little less, we want to invest less into those because they already have at least what we consider a reliable service. But I didn't know on the high cost, is that just an internal record keeping designation at this point, or is it something that will diminish in applicants if they include those high costs but are below your threshold, like if they're at say 9,000 per passing in a fiber solution or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you can get fiber to some of those for $9,000, we would consider it. I don't think just because it's identified as high cost on our map that it's not eligible for funding or we're not going to fund it. I think really what we're looking at and the purpose of identifying those and having ISPs help us and and work on what we think is really, really expensive. What we're hoping for is for people to look at those and be like, okay, I'm an alternative technology provider and I can provide a solution that I think would be cost effective. And so that's what we're kind of doing. We're trying to drive an alternative technology solution for those BSLs. Now, if somebody can pick them up with fiber, that's great. But the reality is they might not be able to. So we wanted to at least kind of take the guessing work out of what CBO is determining high cost. Because one of the things about round 1 was that if we had just maybe done that earlier before round 1 opened, I think it'd be a lot easier on the curing side for us. Because what we ended up having to do is we didn't flag any of those as high cost. We asked ISPs to do that, but then and it was fine. Some of them did, some of them didn't. But based on our budget numbers, we had to go back and ask those ISPs to remove those high cost locations. And then they had to redo their costing and their engineering. So, it wasn't as efficient as maybe it could have been if we had identified those. We're always learning in this program. So one of the lessons learned that we did for round 2 is we said, okay, yeah, you can still identify high cost locations, but for those that we absolutely know are high cost, from what providers have shared with us and also from our own costing analysis, we're just going to put those, we're going to put those in a category so that we don't have to come back to you and ask you to take those out. And so we're trying to streamline that communication so that we can make round 2 more efficient, because the clock's running on the back end of round 2. So we're going to be in March analyzing this stuff, and we literally only have 60 days to turn it around and get going. So we're trying to streamline it and then take the guessing work out of it for ISPs. But they are eligible for funding, assuming that we can afford it. Does that answer your question, Eric?
Yeah, I think it did.
Okay, good. Any other questions on round 2? Judd, is there anything you wanna chime in on or anything? I know Judd's been just instrumental in helping us with all of our guidance and everything. So he's the architect of all of this stuff.
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't take that, but no, I think you covered everything. Yeah, those high cost BSLs that we pre-identified for you, if you can serve them, if you're serving a bunch of other ones right around it and you can still get to that one, even if it is high cost, that's great, especially if you can do it with fiber. But, it's kind of just pre-identifying these for you that you can consider your options, I guess, is how I would put it. And that's what that was for. But I think you covered everything correctly.
Great. Thanks, Judd. And thanks so much for your help too. So on round 1 preliminary selections, just want to offer a little bit of context on this. We are not able to share publicly who was preliminarily selected, whether it was a full selection or a partial selection. We also can't tell people who was declined. And so I know we've been asked, when are we going to see that on your website? CBO always does that, and we really err on the side of transparency and are really happy to provide that information for our other grant programs. But the NTIA will not let us share anything until the final proposal is done. And I don't know, the guidance might change. I don't know, but I just want to let you know that if we could, we would share that information with you all. They just won't let us. So if anybody asks about that, please tell them that it's not CBO. It's policy guidance issued by the NTIA that we can't share anything until it's all finished. So I know that's frustrating, and it's frustrating for us, but we have to follow the rules that were asked of us. So I just want to let you guys know that's why we can't do that.
One point of clarification too is anything that was preliminarily selected in round 1 is taken off the map. So it will not show as eligible.
Yeah, that's right. But we just can't tell who that is.
Do you think
Right.
after the final acceptance of your BEAD proposal, that'd be something you would publish then if allowed by the NTIA, or have you gotten indications that you will be able to?
No, I haven't gotten any indication. I can't remember, Judd, if the NTIA said that you can publish them when they're approved. Or actually, it'd probably be it might be part of our public comment period is when you'll probably know.
Yeah, it is. There's a methodology. I think it's in one of the NTIA guidances, but we have to meet with the NTIA. I forget what it's called, like the CAC group, and we show them our awards. Then we have to wait 2 weeks. Then we can publish it. And then we can also submit our final proposal at that point. And then that all goes public for 30 days. And then the NTIA can provide approval. So there's kind of this again, I always call it a mother may I. Can we award these? They get 2 weeks, then we publish it, then it's open for 30 days. But it's this, detailed NTIA process.
Yeah.
How does that work? I know you guys aren't the ones setting the rules. I'm just trying to think about the reasoning of it, and also my experience with public procurement processes. It seems like there could be, it's almost invalidating the protest period that an ISP that feels like, they lost out on it and not knowing even who to whom. Like a lot of the other grants that I've seen awarded even by the Colorado State, you know what was awarded, what wasn't, and gives an ISP an opportunity to appeal that award. There's usually an appeal time frame even, and it sounds like that's not part of this entire NTIA process. So it seems like an odd public procurement set of rules, honestly.
Right. I think I would agree with you. We actually had an appeals process in our volume 2 and in our draft, and the NTIA made us take it out. So we do not have an appeals process. There's just a public process. And I did the reasoning behind not publishing the first round. I think there's some maybe more nebulous or vague ideas of collusion or gaming the system or saying you take these, I'll take these in round 2. You know, it does provide a little bit of gamesmanship, and I think they just don't want that public. We make the decisions and then make everything public all at once. It's how they
It's
look
not-
at it.
Yeah, I agree, Judd. I think that that's part of it. It's not how this program's very different from other
Yeah.
programs, Eric. And if it's not available, it's because we were told it's not available. So we do, there is a benefit of having some dialogue after awards for sure, and we agree, but the NTIA did not set the program up that way.
Yeah.
We tried to advocate, but as always, but they were pretty rigid on that stuff. So all right. So we have the bead map information here. And I don't know, it's available. Hopefully people are looking at it. I think, you know, taking the time and slowing this process down to ask the NTIA for programmatic waivers was critical. But you know, there's a couple of pieces here. Judd, I think, did you put this on here? Was it anything that you want to add on the mapping side?
No, not on the mapping side.
Okay. So there's a couple, so there's the alternative technology policy notice. We incorporated that in our addendum. And then we have notice to existing unlicensed fixed wireless on alternative technology providers. So all of this stuff is on our website, also here. And if anybody has any questions, we're happy to answer them. Either in office hours or in email. So just let us know. I know we're at the top of the hour over, so I want to make sure that we end here. Is there anything anybody else has for CBO before we close out? Okay. All right, well, thank you guys so much for your attendance today. As always, we appreciate the feedback. We do the best we can. This program is definitely a beast, and our ISPs are really showing up in ways that are fantastic for not just CBO, but for the state of Colorado. So the collaboration has been really great, and we appreciate all the feedback people have been giving us along the way. And we look forward to our application process this month. And again, let us know if you have any questions, and we'll take it from there. All right, you guys, have a good rest of your week. Talk to you soon.